The trapdoor game. What starts as a simple maze board turns into a fully mechanized elimination chamber the moment someone steps on the wrong tile. Built as a room-sized red steel platform, the board is packed with dozens of spring-loaded panels, pop-up walls, and pressure switches wired beneath the surface. Step on the wrong square and a section of floor drops out from under your game piece, sending it sliding down a chute built into the base. The whole structure runs on compressed air, meaning a single wrong move can trigger 3 or 4 traps in a chain reaction before anyone even reacts, sometimes eliminating 2 or 3 pieces on the board in the same turn. Because the pressure switch is reset on a timer instead of a fixed pattern, memorizing the safe path from a previous round doesn't actually help the next time. Unlike the tabletop version most people grew up with, this one needs an actual maintenance crew resetting compressors and panels between rounds. It's Mousetrap's family if Mousetrap decided it wanted to actually catch something. Giant dice roller coaster. Instead of shaking a cup and hoping for a 6, this version puts the dice on actual steel rails. Massive foam cord cubes, each one weighing close to 40 pounds, get launched down a twisting roller coaster track built from scaffolding and looping steel tube nearly 2 stories tall. Gravity and momentum decide the outcome here, not your wrist. The dice tumble through drops, banked turns, and a full loop before landing in one of several numbered collection bins at the bottom. And whichever bin they land in decides your roll. Because the track has multiple branch points, the same dice can take a completely different path every single run. So 2 identical throws almost never land the same way twice. And a die that looks locked into a 6 can still get diverted into the 1 bin at the very last switch. It turns a 2-second dice roll into a 15-second physics experiment. And that's still one of the tamer entries on this list. Wobbly bridge game. This one takes the classic balance and don't fall mechanic and stretches it across an actual suspension bridge. 2 full-height steel towers hold up a walkway suspended entirely on loose coil springs instead of rigid cables, so every step sends a wave of motion down the entire structure. Players have to cross, carrying their game piece without the bridge's sway knocking it off the edge, and the springs are tuned loose enough that even a light footstep gets amplified into a noticeable rock by the time it reaches the far tower. Add a second player crossing from the other side at the same time, and the 2 sets of vibrations start interfering with each other, doubling the sway at the exact midpoint where neither player wants it. Whether that's a design flaw or the entire point depends on who you ask. Bubble dome game. A full glass dome sits sealed over the board, and once it's closed, nobody's hands go back inside until the round ends. Marbles, dice, and small game pieces bounce around freely inside the pressurized dome, kept in constant motion by a low hum of air jets built into the base. Players have to call their outcome based purely on where things land when the air cuts off and everything finally settles, with zero ability to nudge or adjust anything once the dome seals. Watching 30 small objects freeze mid-bounce the instant the jets cut out is oddly the most tense 10 seconds of the entire game. But none of those 4 even come close to what's about to show up in the middle of this list. Rail Maze Puzzle. This one swaps a flat printed maze for a full miniature rail network, complete with junctions, crossings, and moving switch tracks. Small motorized carts run the maze in real time, and players control the track switches to reroute their own cart toward the center while blocking their opponents. Because the switches can be thrown mid-run, a cart that looks like it's about to win can get diverted onto a dead-end loop with one badly timed move, undoing an entire round's worth of progress in a single click. The entire board runs on the same switching logic real rail yards use to sort train cars, just shrunk down, repainted red, and handed to 2 people actively trying to sabotage each other. The Spinning Chaos Board. If any of these looks like it escaped from a clock factory, it's this one. A full ring of interlocking steel gears, some over 3 feet across, spins continuously beneath a glass track that carries marbles around the outer edge. The gears aren't just decoration, they physically drive the marble track, meaning the entire board is in constant motion the second it's switched on, whether anyone is actually taking a turn or not. Marbles get pulled into the gear teeth's rhythm, sped up, slowed down, and occasionally launched clean off the track if 2 gear speeds fall out of sync. Players don't roll or draw, they just release a marble into the mechanism and watch it decide their fate over the next several minutes. It's less a board game and more a functioning piece of industrial machinery that occasionally, almost incidentally, produces a winner. If you thought a spinning gear ring was as far as this could go, the next one has an actual blade on it. The Meat Slicer Spinner. Underneath the name is a genuinely intimidating piece of hardware. A heavy steel safe body with a full-sized circular blade mounted on the front like a deli slicer, surrounded by 4 smaller spinning discs. Players don't touch the blade directly, it's purely for intimidation and sound, but the mechanism it's attached to controls the 4 outer discs, which spin at independently randomized speeds every round. Landing your marker on the disc that stops closest to a marked line decides your move, and because the discs are geared to the same drive shaft as the blade, you can hear it grinding the entire time you're trying to make a decision. Some rounds the blade spins a full 10 seconds before any disc even starts slowing down. 10 seconds most players spend regretting their turn order. Eyeball Tower. 4 stories tall and lined with oversized mechanical eyes that track motion around the board. This one plays like a surveillance system disguised as a toy. Each eye sits on its own motorized track running vertically through the tower's frame, sliding up and down independently and occasionally locking onto whichever player piece is closest. When an eye locks on, a mechanical claw drops from that level and pulls the targeted piece straight up into the tower, out of play until the next round. Because the eyes move on their own schedule instead of a fixed, dice-based timer, there's no way to predict exactly when the tower is about to strike, which is precisely why the tower has quietly ended more games early than any other piece on this list. The Claw Machine Game. Every arcade claw machine has trained a generation to distrust a mechanical grip, and this one leans all the way into that. A full-sized industrial claw arm sits mounted over a clear bin packed with small numbered gray pieces, and instead of quarters, players earn claw attempts by landing on specific board spaces. The claw runs on the same weak grip logic that makes arcade machines infamous, deliberately tuned to drop pieces partway through the lift more often than not, so a guaranteed grab is never actually guaranteed. Because the bin refills and resettles after every failed attempt, the odds are never quite the same twice, which somehow makes the one grab that actually works feel like winning the entire game outright.